In this video, we are going to learn about references in C++. A reference may be defined as an alias or an alternative name for an existing variable. It can be used to access and modify another variable. Let's understand its syntax. Here is the syntax of declaration of a reference. As you can see here, first of all we mention the data type name, then we mention the reference name which must be preceded by an ampersand sign or an address of operator, and at the time of declaration itself the reference name must be initialized with the name of the variable for which it is acting as a reference. In this program, I am going to show you how to create a reference for a variable and work with it. So first of all, I am going to create a floating point type variable. Let's call it as total and assign it some value, maybe 100.90. In the next step, I am going to create a reference for this variable. So the data type should be the same, which is float. Then the name of the reference, let's say it is sum, but it is a reference variable, so its name must be preceded by an address of operator. Now we can type sum, and a reference variable must be initialized at the time of declaration. So here we write total, and this is how we declare and initialize it in single step. After this, I am going to print the values of sum and total. So first of all, total is equal to total, and similarly I am going to print the value of sum as sum equal to name of the variable sum. Our program is already saved, so let's run it. And here you can see total is equal to 100.9 and similarly sum is equal to 100.9. So we can clearly see that variable sum is a reference for variable total. Now let's make some change to our variable total. Let's say I change the value of total as total plus 10, and in the next step once again I am going to print these values. So here I will type new total and new sum. Let's see if the sum value remains the same or it is also changed along with total. So as we execute it, we can see that the new total becomes 110.9 and similarly new sum is also 110.9 with just one change in total. If you make changes to the sum variable itself, let's say sum is equal to 0.0, then what would be the value of total and sum? Well, obviously sum is going to be 0.0, but what about the variable total? Let's see. So here new total is equal to 0 and new sum is equal to 0. That means both of these variables have one-to-one correspondence. If you make any change to one variable, the other variable is automatically going to get changed. References can also be used with functions in C++. Since they provide an alternate way to access variables, they are therefore used for passing variables or even larger data structures as arguments to functions without creating copies. We have already seen this example in call by reference method. Let us study one more example. In this program, I am going to show you how to pass an argument by reference to a function. So first of all, we are going to take an integer type variable, then we will pass it to some function which accepts an integer reference, then increments it, and then we will see how passing by reference affects the original value. So our first step is to create a function here. Let's say the name of the function is increment and its return type is void. So this function will take an integer reference, let's say and num is the reference, and we will simply increment this num variable by 1. So whatever variable is being passed to this function by reference will get incremented by 1. That is the goal of defining this function increment. Now coming to the main function, we are going to declare one variable here, let's say a, and let's initialize it with value 10. Now I'm going to print the value of a equal to, here we will type the name a. After this I'm going to call the function, and this is a void type function, so we don't need to assign it to some other variable. We can simply call it by passing the name of our actual variable, which is a. And after this, once again I am going to see the new value of a equal to, and then we will type here a. Let's save this program as reference to, save, execute it. So here you can see original value of a is 10, but the new value of a is 11. This variable a has been passed by reference here. In this line we are actually passing by reference, because when we pass this variable a here, its reference is and num, which is defined inside the function body, and once this reference is incremented, that increment will affect the original value, and therefore the original value is also incremented. Hence we got the new value of a as 11. Let me show you once again. So our actual value was 10 and the new value is 11 after incrementing it through reference. Let us understand what is the difference between a reference and a pointer. A reference by definition means an alternative name for an existing variable. On the other hand, a pointer is a variable which stores the address of some existing variable in a program. Second point of difference is that a reference must be initialized when declared, whereas a pointer can be initialized at any time during the program. Third point is that a reference cannot be null. As mentioned earlier, at the time of declaration itself, a reference must be initialized with the name of the variable for which it is acting as a reference or an alternative name. On the other hand, a pointer can be null. You may decide to assign it the address of some other variable later, but for the time being, you can keep your pointer as null. Lastly, a reference cannot be reassigned to reference or to refer to some other variable once it is initialized. On the other hand, a pointer can be reassigned to point to different variables at different times during the program.